Oh, that video clip was so refreshing to hear. It was so refreshing to hear. And the video clip I'm talking about, and I guess people are talking about it. I tried to find a bunch of videos on it. I see a bunch of response videos. I had to go and search and find the original video. The original video is from a TikTok video, and somebody posted it online. And it's of a Somali girl, and I don't know whether she's talking to her mother or friend or aunt or somebody. I mean, the other woman looks like she's slightly older, so it probably is her mother. But the question came up as to whether she identifies as Muslim first or black first. Now, I looked at a number of these response videos, some black people, some non-black people. One guy, he seems to be like this imam, and he's a white guy, and he's a convert to Islam, or as they like to call, a revert. And to me, like his opinion is just dismissed. Anytime you get a white person, especially, but anytime you get a non-black person that just basically wants to dismiss black people's racial issues in Western society, or just society as a whole, that is not somebody to be taken seriously. They haven't experienced it. They don't know it. For many people, it brings a lot of guilt, especially for coming from white people. So you're never going to get an honest conversation about that. So they should just be dismissed. But this imam, he seemed to, have a problem with it, and probably due to the fact that he's a white guy and he's in Islam. So in that situation, he's in the minority. Being a actual white guy with blue eyes and being Muslim, you're in the minority. Especially one coming from the West. I'm not talking about like those people like in Albania and where Europe meets Asia. No, I'm not talking about those people. I'm talking about the actual, like, you grew up in most likely an Anglo-Christian, Judeo-Christian household, and then you decided that you wanted to follow Islam. Okay. Those are the ones that are really in the minority and the ones that really stand out. But so the girl was having a conversation with her mother. Now, my question is to all the other black Muslims out there: how long can you ignore the reality? Right? Because even on that TikTok video, all these Muslims came in there, some of them black, some of them other, oh, I identify as Muslim first. It's all about being Muslim first. And there's something wrong with her, and her teachings are wrong, and this, that, and the third. Right? But how long can you ignore the reality? And I'm saying all the other Muslims' responses to this woman saying that she identifies as black first and not Muslim. And she gave us, a specific example where she, I guess it was during the time of the protests. I don't know whether it revolved around George Floyd or whatever, but it was during all the protests, Black Lives Matter, all that stuff. And there was a forum that she was on, and there was a Pakistani guy, that, basically was more concerned about property damage than, he was about the actual issue of police brutality and what actually affects black people. And this is what always happens. I have, some very close Pakistani friends, and one Pakistani friend in particular, and I used to, do videos with her. And so some of you may remember, but she just said point blank, period. She said, Pakistani people and many other non-white peoples, because that's what she considered herself. She's not white, and she knows it. And, she has a sense of some double consciousness, right? Because anytime some sort of terrorist attack happens, then all of a sudden, the the crosshairs shift away from black people and they shift towards Muslim people. And then, for a certain period of time, all the Muslim people end up catching heat. But for a long time, it's all, especially in the West in America, it's just been black people that were the targets and the focus of things until after 9/11. Then Muslims got in the crosshairs. So due to that, there's a level of double consciousness. But she just said that, and I've heard this about people being told this when it comes to immigrating to America, and whether it's the people at the immigration office or whatever, stay away from those black Americans, right? And so what she called it adopted racism. Adopted racism, meaning they see white people shit on black people. America is a white dominated country, right? Socioeconomically, politically, and all that. And if you're going to receive the benefits from the dominant society, well, when in Rome, do as the Romans do. So there's a lot of other people, Arabs, Pakistanis, Bengali, Asian, Indian, whatever. When they come into America, right? They know black people at the bottom of the totem pole, Martin Luther King. Yeah, I remember that, textbooks, all that stuff. They know the black people at the bottom of the totem pole. Okay. And when some shit goes down, they do not identify with black people. They identify with white people where all the benefits are coming from. It's just like what I said about Puerto Rico. Again, Afro-Puerto Ricans, as it says on Wikipedia, are 56% of the population. But going back to when they actually did the census of Puerto Rico back in like the 1920s, it was like a very small period where the Puerto Ricans were claiming that they were white and they didn't want to claim that they were black, obviously, because there were no socioeconomic benefits to identifying as black. And so since many of these non-whites can't be white, they adopt racism to where it's like, oh, massa, look at me. I'm shitting on the black people too. So I'm on your side, massa. Throw me some benefits because I'll act as an honorary white man, massa. And this is not just in the West in terms of America. This is the whole goddamn world. Now, what I saw a lot of comments saying, or what a lot of comments focusing on, is the afterlife. This world is nothing. It's all about the afterlife. And again, the right path is the path of Islam. And, to exist in all of eternity is much better than to, exist, here and now. And so none of the shit that's going on here and now matters, which is bullshit. And you know why that's bullshit? It's bullshit for one huge main reason. Because the inequalities that exist right here and now are the inequalities that get passed on. It amazes me. Like, that's the one guaranteed thing that we know that is guaranteed. Right? If you have, like you have families that have been generationally wealthy, generationally, had, inequality and whatnot. Right. And especially when you get down to groups of people, especially when you talk about a situation like slavery and the residual effects of that and that sort of inequality, your children will be subject to the reverberating effects of that injustice, that crime that happened in the past. Your children may be subject to the rule and subjugation by another group. Your children, if there were ever some sort of catastrophe to happen, your children would be the first ones to die. Your children would be the first ones to go. Your children would be the last ones to get in the bunker if they got in the bunker at all, because they're at the bottom of the socioeconomic totem pole. And for some strange reason, when it comes to black people seem to always ignore that fact. And they want to focus on the afterlife. They always want to ignore the reality that they know, the reality that they're most familiar with, and somehow replace it with fantasy and wishful thinking and ideas of shit that can't be, confirmed nor denied. It makes absolutely no sense to me. No sense to me. It's like just imagine like your African ancestors on the coast of Africa, either coast, the East Coast or the West Coast. And it's like no, it didn't occur to anybody like, damn, if this shit goes down, our children are going to be subject to the crimes of other people for generations to come. And that's not more important to you than the shit that people want to sit up and talk about when they talk about, the afterlife. And then how does this marvelous afterlife even play out? If you're a Muslim and they're telling you, oh, you shouldn't focus on race and race shouldn't come before Islam, right? And they tell you all that, right? And again, these are the people that aren't going to identify with you when some foul stuff happens to black people. They're not going to identify with you. They're going to be like, oh, you're just race baiting. You're just talking about race, right? But then they want you to identify with their shit, right? And that's how they see it. That's how Arabs see Islam. It's their shit. And they don't just do that with black people. They also do that with Pakistani people as well. They treat Pakistanis like shit as well, and other Indian Muslims like shit as well. Okay. And, they'll co-sign you as long as you identify with, what they believe that they have main ownership of. Yeah, they'll co-sign you in regards to that, but they're not coming to your aid. They're not coming to your rescue because, you are, their brother. They're not going to do that. And so I ask, how does this shit translate when like people like you die and you go to Jannah, right? How does this shit translate, right? So the same assholes that didn't want to help you out on Earth, the same ones that looked at you as though you're inferior or that you're, they got the skin bleaching cream and fair and lovely and everything. They don't want to look anything like you, right? But somehow, when you die and you get to Jannah, right, it's going to be peace and harmony, and you're going to be rubbing shoulders with the same way. Like again, if when you die, you maintain the same level of whatever it is that's about you that makes up your soul, that is you and your personality, and we're not going to fuck with that and change that, then the people that have these bigoted attitudes towards black people, they're going to bring that with them into the afterlife. It's not just going to magically go away. And so you'll be rubbing shoulders with those people. And then again, on planet Earth, where we know, is an existence that we are fully aware of, again, their children are going to be wealthy. Their children are going to control the businesses and the corporations and everything. And your children will be sweeping the streets. But alhamdulillah, Allahu Akbar. Like, again, I don't understand how you all can ignore the realities. Y'all running around, alhamdulillah, Allahu Akbar, all that stuff. Oh, race doesn't matter. Yeah, why don't you take your Nigerian Hausa ass and go try to marry one of these Pakistani girls and find out what time it is? Why don't you go take your ass and go try to marry one of these Lebanese girls and find out what time it is? Or one of these Syrian girls, or one of these chicks from Kurdistan or Iraq, you know what I'm saying? Or the Gaza Strip or something like that. One of these Palestinian girls. Right? And see how they think and feel about black people. Still running around using the term abid or abid. Still running around using those terms. And still, you want to co-sign their faith and their religion. Like, I like my whole thing is just like, right, if I'm going to join something, right, I look around at the landscape, right, they tell me that it's all inclusive and we don't care about race and none of that shit here. But I look around, right, and if I had a timeline, I'm like, damn, black people been at the back of the bus on this shit for the last, like, 500 years. You know what I'm saying? Like, how can you look like you look around and you see that your people are sitting at the back of the bus, but they want to tell you about how included you are, how you're seen as an equal, right? And then they go and then when you call them out, they'll do some shit like, oh shit, they called us out. Oh, what are we gonna do? I don't know, throw up a token, right? Just like the dude that sings the morning prayer in Saudi Arabia, the black dude with the beautiful voice, right? What's his name? I think it's Kolbani, right? I mean, like I don't understand how y'all can subscribe to the shit. These other people don't fuck with you like that. I don't care how many hamdallahs, how many Allahu Akbars, how many insha'Allahs you say and repeat, how many verses of the Quran you recite. When it comes down to how they really feel about you, they don't fuck with you like that. You subscribing to Islam only makes them feel a little bit more comfortable when you're around. And then all they're going to do is just, throw up some scripture and say some things, right? Because again, they're trying to protect their wealth. They're trying to protect their resources. And if they can get you to operate on some, benevolent, fluffy Care Bear shit where you're not focused on money and power and control, then, oh, thank God. Oh, man, I thought I was have to pay him more money, I thought he would come for my shit. That's the sad part about black people and what makes me feel like, we're just a bunch of children. And that's how many other groups look at us. We're just children. They give us a God to worship. They give us a religion. You know what I mean? They tailor it to benefit themselves. And then we sit around and we co-sign it. That's how the shit works. But it's for some reason, like, we don't get it. And forget talking to most of the East African Muslims about this and the Somalis about this, or even some of the West African Muslims. Islam and people in Islam are some of the most anti-intellectual people I have ever met. The whole way that they move is groupthink. I mean, you think the black Christians are bad. Oh, the black Muslims are 10 times worse. 10 times worse, because if it doesn't align with the Quran, then they have like a brain freeze. You see, and Islam is not pliable. Islam doesn't budge. It doesn't move. They love to run around and talk about how, there's been no other, versions of the Quran. It's in its original form. It's in its original state. Right? So Islam does not bend for anything. Where Christianity, tries to bend and all that other stuff. You got the Vatican having meetings, with the people that are, putting together or have the Hadron Collider, because, they're like God particle. Oh, we want to know about this. Yeah, because they're going to have to change their shit if they discover life somewhere else. Or if they discover new things about the universe, which again is inevitable, when it comes to the people who largely don't subscribe to religion, but to subscribe to discovery and to subscribe to actual verifiable knowledge, and not this hocus pocus and fairy tale stories and whatnot from 2,000 years ago. But, it's like when I look at Christianity, especially in the West, it's like when it comes to white people, the funny thing is that about Christianity is, I think, because white people, in my opinion, largely define Christianity. Christianity has somehow transformed into a white European religion, and because white people have a different position than other groups around the world, they can't let religion just take over. They can't if they want to maintain their position of power and socioeconomic and political dominance, okay, their dominance is the priority. Nothing in that holy book better interfere with us. Yeah, all right, yeah, that's okay, Pope. You can talk all that shit you want to talk. That's cool. We'll back you up. Yeah, because it helps keep society, in this cohesive state for all the believers and everything else. And we can, kind of defer some of the might makes right through our military and police, and we can kind of, push some of that over to God and say, well, we don't have to, instead of having a law and then like forcing people to follow the law, you can just have people believe that what they're doing is the right thing, which just so happens to coincide with the law. Therefore, you don't have to go out there and put all 100% of the force through the police and the military to keep people in line. You can keep them in line through religion by keeping them mentally shackled in the concepts of, be a good person and all that other stuff. Meanwhile, corporate speaking and, or corporately speaking, or what's the other term I want to use? Militaristically speaking, right? You're ruthless, right? Again, go watch that. What's the guy's name? I want to say his name is like Jonathan Harris. What's his name? Anyway, go watch that video, about the Banana Republic, about bananas. He did this video recently about bananas and how do we get bananas and the original banana and the whole Chiquita banana and the marketing and everything, and how the U.S. government basically like just took over Guatemala. I mean, shit's crazy. Took over Guatemala, took over the Philippines, took over Hawaii, just took that bitch. You know what I'm saying? That's what you're dealing with. And then, rewrite the history books, exclude shit, omit shit, and then say, oh, America is the land of exceptionalism. It's so great. What's so funny is about him, because he used to be ex-Mormon and whatnot. I know he's pissed off. That's why he's making all them videos like he is. Because he really believed in Mormonism and, all that stuff and Jesus and all. He believed in all that stuff. He believed in true righteousness, and then he discovered that it was bullshit. And so now he's on a crusade to, expose shit, expose all the evils of the world. I don't, what that will truly accomplish. I appreciate it, but I'm just saying that's what he's essentially doing. I'm like, yeah, you walked away from that shit because you realize that what was being sold is not what it actually is. And again, same thing with black people in Islam. I just don't know how long y'all gonna continue to sit on the back of the bus, not realizing that you're sitting on the back of the bus, and just completely ignore that, and then let all the non-black people, who don't go through your shit, who don't go through your plight, tell you that everything that you experience as a black person in the world can be washed away with this here Quran and whatnot. And yet, while they point to the Quran, and while they point to the Hadith, or while, they point to, whatever, what do they call it? They don't call it scripture in Islam. They call it, what do they call it? What do they call it? I can't think of what they call it. But anyway, we'll just say scripture. Okay? They'll point to that, but yet these are the people that still engage in the hierarchies. They still engage in the superiority complex. Like I said, go off again. They tell you all this. Oh, race doesn't matter. You're Muslim first. You're not black first. Race doesn't matter. Yeah, go off and try to intermarry with them. And all of a sudden, it's not about you being Muslim. What place does race have in Islam? What place does it have in Islam? You gotta look at the objective reality. You gotta look at the objective world, as opposed to looking at what somebody's trying to tell you, what somebody's trying to sell to you. And what's so funny about, like, especially black people, I know this woman's Somali and whatnot, so different culture. But what's so funny about black people and religion is the shit that black people allow religion to get away from. The smoke and mirrors, the bullshit, right? Because, black people, we from the streets and the hustle this and hustle that and everything else. We would never let anybody get away with in the streets. We would never let anybody get away. This sort of, oh, I owe you money, but I'll get it back to you later. Like, nah, nigga, where my money? Like we want shit. We want shit now. Like, you can't bullshit us in the streets. But yet somehow we walk into a masjid or a mosque or a church and everything, and then we just get bullshitted every day. Like, it just makes no sense to me. It makes no sense to me. The same people that know the ins and outs of street culture are the same people that once they walk into the holy doors of some spiritual building, all of a sudden they're like, oh, yeah, duh. Like, they just go dumb. I'm like, for real? So you buy into all that shit? You know what I mean? And then, you sit there and try to be slick. You're like, you know what? If he believes this bullshit, well, then maybe he believe, okay, yeah, let me try to get over on this motherfucker. And the next thing you know, he's like, nigga, where my money at? You know what I mean? Like in other words, he doesn't play that shit. Doesn't play that. I'm like, you don't play that you do not play in any other aspect of your life. But when it comes to religion, all of a sudden you suspend belief. You just suspend it. Like that will always forever blow my mind. I'm like, so let me get this right. So you like, 'cause especially when you come across these people that are like intelligent, you can tell that they're intelligent. And you're talking to them and you're like, okay, all right, you get this, you get that. And then out of nowhere, they just start suspending belief. And you're like, huh? But wait a minute. Come on, man. I know you're more intelligent than that. I mean, come on now. Next thing you know, they start talking about, how they believe in the Easter Bunny and shit like that. What? But then you have another conversation. Nah, nigga, I know this bitch is lying. It's like, why don't you just believe her? Why don't you just take it at face value? You take shit at face value when you walk through those holy doors. You take everything at face value. You just take the fanciful shit at face, talking snakes and fucking, apples that give you knowledge and somehow, two people fucking each other and then procreating the whole species like there ain't a whole bunch of incest going on. Like, what? Like, nigga, what? You know what I mean? Not to mention, the whole idea, every time you see Adam and Eve, there's white people. And then it's like, okay, well, where do you get all these other races from? Like, bro, dinosaurs, like, bro, like, come on, come the fuck on, like, come on. You know what I mean? But it just makes no sense. It makes no sense. But anyway, getting away from the topic. That clip was a breath of fresh air. I'm not gonna lie. Like, it's a breath of fresh air. And somebody brought up the point. They were like, how come you go in on the Somalis, but you don't go in on the Ethiopians? Because Ethiopians don't be talking shit. Ethiopians don't have, I'm not saying that they don't have a superiority complex, but they don't talk shit. Ethiopians don't come through. There's probably just as many Ethiopians in America as there are Somalians. Ethiopians don't come off sideways like Somalians do. And I do think that part of the reason is because of Islam, because if a Somali comes to America, the majority of America is not Muslim. And so there's less to relate. Ethiopian comes to America, they're Christian. Most African Americans are Christian due to the transatlantic slave trade. And so, it's just like, okay, the religions are the same and there's no tension there. There's no tension. With the Somalis, they come over and they're wearing their hijab and, then they go and they, maybe sit with the other Muslims. There might be some Pakistanis and some Arabs and shit, and they go sit with them. And it's like, and you just sitting there kind of scratching your head like, yeah, but they don't, like, those other groups don't fuck with us, but you fucking with them because you're Muslim, but we already know how they feel about us. But you sitting with that, like that shit is confusing, right? So the Somalis, they like split between two different worlds. And when they come here, they don't really fully understand the politics of the shit unless they've been here for a couple generations, which is why I continue to see a divide in the Somali community. You got some Somalians that, again, they're more connected to their blackness, arguably, in tune with, the African American, vibrating at the same frequency, so to speak. And then you get the ones that, They are on the coon shit, we're not like them, we're better than them, and again that whole adopted racism thing that we're Kushite, we're not Bantu black, they get on that bullshit. That's why there's all that smoke, for the Somalians, because again, phenotypically speaking, there ain't much difference between the Somali and the Ethiopian. There really isn't. And I would say the same thing about the Ethiopians as I would about the Somali. I'm like, yeah, freaking, you're close to the fucking Middle East, trade, wars, all that shit. People fucking each other. Yeah, that's why you look the way that you look. Half Bantu, half Arab. That's what the fuck you are. Get over it. But yeah, I don't. Black people gotta wake up. It's like what other comment did I see? There was another comment that I saw, talking about is like, what was it? What was the comment about? It was talking about, some brother's comment. He left a comment underneath that white imam's page, talking about how he doesn't identify as black. He identifies as Muslim and whatnot. And I just left a comment basically saying, I'm like, yeah, but when you look at your like white supremacy got over all of its differences. White people were fighting the hell out of each other, prior to discovering Africa. I mean, they just had wars on top of wars on top of wars. From the Middle Ages, all the way up to like the Napoleonic Wars and shit like that. They just have wars, motherfuckers running at each other with fucking Mosin Nagant's, mount bayonets. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's what white people were doing forever. And then they got over all their differences, all the fact that they speak different languages and everything, and they formed Voltron, and then they went and they said, okay, we're going to carve up the rest of the world. They're not going to be ready for us because we coming as a team. I mean, if you don't believe me, go look at the fake battle that happened in the Philippines, which I believe his name is Jonathan Harrison. I don't want to get the name wrong, but I'm saying, he covered that in there, talking about they had some fake battle between Spain, who was controlling the Philippines at the time, and the United States, because the Spaniards just, if they were going to lose to anybody, they wanted to lose to another white group, even though that the Filipinos were already kicking their ass. They were already on their way out the door, but they wanted it to make it look like, well, we lost to another superpower. They wanted to save face. We lost to another Caucasian controlled group. We didn't lose to those indigenous, spear chuckers. We didn't lose to them. Those face painters. We didn't lose to them. No, 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 no. We lost to America, and America beat Britain. So, we still save face because America, they're strong, and we put up a good fight. No, the fuck they didn't. They completely had a faux battle so that they could save face because they didn't want to lose to some non-whites. That's what the fuck it came down to. You see, so when it comes to the religion, as Nellie Fuller would call it, the religion of white supremacy, white supremacy don't play that shit. But when it comes to, black people get stupid with it. Y'all can say what you want about China and the Uyghurs and all that other shit. Why is China a superpower right now? Because a long time ago, the King dynasty, whatever dynasties, they took over the whole area and they forced people into, their belief system and their culture. The Han Chinese dominate everything. That's why they go in there taking over Tibet, even though, yes, I know Tibet has all their water, but they got this Muslim population, the Uyghurs, and they're like, yo, y'all ain't getting with the program. Y'all got to get, okay, we gonna make you get with the program. And they got all those concentration camps and everything over there. Right? Same thing in Hong Kong. We got to bring you in. Same thing with Taiwan. We got to bring you in. All you're doing is you're on our borders, and all you're doing is acting as this defiant, point of inspiration against, our, the CCP. They can't have that. And the same thing with the Arabs and going off and making their caliphates and making people who aren't Muslim got to pay the jizya and converting people with their Aladdin swords and shit like that. Like that's what the fuck they were doing. That's how they became, the force that they came, in the, I don't know what century, the 11th century, the 12th century, whatever century you want to throw up there. You know what I mean? They came into North Africa and spread Islam and forced it on people and whatnot. They did that shit. I'm not saying that you didn't have any people who converted, but again, we already know how the Arabs get down. You know what I mean? People trying to put benevolent shit on Muslims that ain't never existed like that. Get the fuck out of here. You know what I mean? Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, was a goddamn warrior. That should tell you everything that you need to know. Jesus, a carpenter. If you want to believe in the story of Jesus, which again, in my opinion, comes from the Book of the Dead, which comes from ancient Egypt, which predates all that shit. But whatever. You're talking way pre-Abrahamic religions and then getting into the whole idea that humanity is far older than people actually think that it is. But that's a whole nother conversation. But, what was I saying? There's a point that I was going to make about, the whole diversity thing. Africa, too diverse. Even the African American community, too diverse. Too many different factions. Can't get over our differences. Can't get over our shit. We're like a bunch of elementary school kids on the basketball court. Everybody's fighting over who wants to be the point guard. And then you got these other groups that come in, namely white folks. You know what I mean? They already got assigned positions. They're organized. You know what I'm saying? They throwing alley oops up and they like you ever see like when people do like a triple alley oop? Where like they'll pass 3 times and throw the ball up and then the last guy dunks it. Like, yeah, that's how they get down. Us on the other hand, no, we don't get down like that. We operate, on some we don't see the forest for the trees. We don't see the bigger picture. And we get ourselves involved in all of the type of shit, all shit that does not benefit us. Religion, Abrahamic religions are used as a political tool against us. Everybody who has come into Africa and they all come with the the freaking the Catholics, they come in there with the Portuguese. What do they do to Africa when they got there? Take. The Muslims, they come in there, with Islam and whatnot. And what do? Take. They took bodies and they took resources. That's what they did. They come in there and they take. It's like we've persistently been in this weak ass position. And it's because we always have this love for everybody else's shit, but not for our own shit. You know what I mean? You gotta think about that. If somebody comes into your space and literally told your ancestors that everything about them, their culture, their language, their way of being and everything was bullshit, and you need to subscribe to this shit over here. You got to subscribe to my shit. And we went for that. Was that not some bitch ass shit to do? You know what I mean? That you just throw away everything that's you throw it away and then you adopt somebody else's shit. And then you sit at the back of their bus. And we don't get that. So, again, African Americans, Black Christians, even in Africa, as I've seen many people point out to me, there is an awakening. But the Black Muslims, like they're slowly awakening, if they're awakening at all. I mean, hell, you got the Pakistanis awakening. You got, what's the guy's name? Harris Sultan. You know what I mean? He's got his channel. He's Pakistani. I'm saying, and they speaking on the shit, with the fear, or the threat of death. Both him and the other Pakistani girl. Because they go full retarded over there with the shit. You have insulted the Prophet Muhammad. They lose their shit. I must kill you. They lose their shit. They just lose their shit. And no society that operates like that can progress. You know what I mean? That's a society that's still going to be on some, freaking horse and buggy type of shit. Because true science, true discovery, and religion, they don't mix. It's like oil and water. They don't mix. People try to make it mix, doesn't mix. But yeah, anyway, like I said, that video, that was that made me feel good. Yeah, I'm like, yeah, that made me feel good. That's how everybody else operates. They put themselves first. Nobody's coming to black people's rescue. I don't care whether you're Muslim or not. Nobody identifies with you like that. I don't even know how. Again, I'm dragging this video out, but I don't even know how does that sit with you all? How do you sit there and again, we all know this shit goes on. It's only with the advent of the internet that many of the younger people have come forward because they know it's foul. You know what I'm saying? And they're too young to give a shit about playing in politics and playing the political and not rocking the boat and shit like that. They're like, no, this is foul. And they might be getting inspired by other groups like African Americans who call out the foul shit that happens to us. But just type in racism in Islam. Because Muslims love to try to pretend like there's no racism in Islam. They'll be like, what are you talking about? The Prophet Muhammad's best bud was Bilal. Right? Just completely ignoring that Bilal was a fucking slave. Like, even back then, like, oh, we're going to have a black guy in the story and he's going to be a slave. It's like, for real. Like, that's like, where is the respect? Oh, but see, the Prophet Muhammad freed him. He's free. Like, you still don't get it. Like, the original position, like, you don't get it. You see what I'm saying? Shit, even Christianity, at least they got the three kings, and the richest motherfucker that was there that was brought gold was the black king. But nah, we don't get stories like that. You see, things like that matter. Things like that go to your self-esteem and, your ability to go out here and believe that you can do things. So I don't see how it's beneficial to go out here and subscribe to other people's story where at best all you get to be is the goddamn sidekick. But yeah, like, again, and you got to face the reality. The reality is, once you move to the West and you have to deal with the realities of living in the West, all that stuff, I'm putting Muslim first and everything and whatnot. Yeah, you may have days where you're discriminated against with the Muslims, especially the girls, because the girls wear the hijab. But as a like a black Somali or a black any other black Muslim and whatnot, when the police see you, they see a nigga. They don't see Ahmed. They see a nigga. They don't know that you Ahmed until they look at your license. You know what I'm saying? They don't know that your name is Abdullah until, they pull you over or some shit. Then you might catch double smoke because they don't like Muslims. They think 9/11 is some shit and you're black. So you got double whammy. But y'all live in the narrow box. And I get it. It's going to take time because a lot of y'all live in that narrow box of your little home country. And, in your home country, right, the courts are controlled by people who look like you, the cops, people that look like you. And then the issues that you have in those countries are internal issues within those countries caused by your own people. We could argue international groups coming in and screwing shit up, the neocolonialism. We can argue that. But I'm saying overall, like, you're in your own little pocket. You're in your own little world. But then when you come to the West and you come to America and you come to the UK and then you're confronted and you're faced with white supremacy, then things are a little bit different. And then when you confronted with other people that are supposed to be your fellow Muslims, and then they're trying to gain favor with white supremacy by shitting on you, and you got to stop and sit there and be like, well, hold on. Wait a minute. Hold up. Because you see how much, and again, there's always this bullshit of trying to get black people to co-sign, where, the idea, like, one of the imam, the white imam, he was like, you can't respond to racism with racism. I hate that bullshit. First off, the response to racism is not racism. It is the response. Let's just call it that. It's the response. And this notion that, oh, well, the best way to respond to racism is to love thy neighbor. Again, more pacifist shit to try to encourage black people not to respond as they should. Meanwhile, Muslims, they fuck with them, draw the cartoon of the prophet. They got to blow some shit up. They got to run some people over. You start fucking with them. But yet, when it comes to black people, they say, oh, no, just calm down, calm down. You must love the person that is excluding you. You must caress them. You must get on your knees and suck their dick. You might as well just say that. So it's always about getting us to, we get shitted on. We're supposed to respond in some benevolent, loving way, right? We're supposed to blow kisses, right? But when they get shit on, they don't respond like that. And so there's always this trying to get black people to be these ultimate pacifists. And then that whole love thy neighbor bullshit, and I know that's Christianity, but I'm saying, and I know Islam is, an eye for an eye and all this other stuff. But again, there's this contradiction of Islam is a religion of peace at the same time on some eye for an eye type shit. So the issue that I see is one where, like even speaking on, you can't use racism to respond to racism, or you shouldn't use racism to respond to racism. It's like, look, if somebody's excluding me and I go and create my own shit because I've been excluded, don't come over to me talking about you're being exclusive and shit, because the whole reason this was created was because I was being excluded. Because actually, I was for inclusion before. But again, when you realize how much other people, what they actually control when they're excluding you, what they're denying you, and you start to see that it's all smoke and mirrors. See, I don't like people running around, preaching what they don't practice. And there's a whole bunch of that when it comes to trying to get black people to engage in behaviors that are antithetical to them, right? That are anti-black. They're trying to get black people to participate and engage in anti-black behavior. So they want us to love thy neighbor, and they want us to, if somebody does something terrible to you, you should respond back with love and inclusivity and all that other shit. But that's not what happens when they deal with us. You see, and not only that, as I said in the comment, and I took this from somewhere else, but, all that, non-violence and all that, love thy neighbor bullshit, all of that using that as a tactic or a response is predicated on the idea that the person that has excluded you has a conscience. It's some Disney movie shit. This idea, I'm gonna, they hate me, but I'm gonna love them, and when I'm gonna love them so much that they're gonna love me back. It's Disney shit, fantasy, childhood shit. You see, it's like the crap that the news loves to, put up on, they hear some story and they go and, this black man helped a police officer. See, it's not so bad, like that type of stuff. Like what they did with that black woman that was trying to protect the white supremacists from getting beat up during Charlottesville. That type of bullshit. That turn the other cheek shit. The cop come, shoot the boy 15 times, and then the black mother's up on the news talking about, I forgive and I forget because I'm a Christian. That bullshit. that forgive and forget shit before her son's body is even cold, let alone in the ground. This sort of pacifist. Everybody wants black people to be pacifist. Everybody does. You know what I'm saying? We are constantly seen as a threat. And we let people psychologically get into our heads and fill our heads with bullshit that is not beneficial to us. And then we find ourselves in these compromised situations where we're sitting around begging for employment, begging to be in other people's spaces, begging to be recognized, begging to get some award for some movie or some bullshit like that. And going out here and subscribing to these people's religions, is a part of it. That's like the first piece. Make you think that you're included in some shit when you're not included. But then when you look around and you see black people at the back of the bus. Again, I don't care how many times y'all want to say Allahu Akbar. I look all around the Arab world, all around the Muslim world, all around Islam, and black people are at just as much at the bottom as they are in, Christendom. You got the Al-Aqdam over there in Yemen, this untouchable class, bunch of street sweepers, descendant of slaves that were brought there. Oh, but let the Somalis tell, oh, no, we ain't got nothing to do with that. No, there was no mixing and mingling. We're the original people. Okay, yeah. You keep telling yourselves that. You're literally like a canoe ride away from the shit. You could probably see the freaking shores of Yemen from Somalia. So, again, like, I don't know what else to say about it. People come to their own conclusions in their own time. You can't force them, but I don't have to force anything. I just leave the bug in your ear. I'm like, all right, you can tell me about the afterlife and all that shit and everything the book says and everything, but I'm like, here's the objective reality that's in your face that you can't ignore. So, anyway, that's all I got to say. That's my video. SWP out.